All right, welcome to PA High School Football Report. We are powered by PennLive. Eric Epler alongside Dan Sostek, live from his laboratory somewhere in the Philadelphia suburbs.
Yep. Yeah. Then in beautiful Bluebell, Pennsylvania, formerly known as Pigeon Town. That's a fun fact. I kind of,
Really? Did not
I,
know that.
yeah, I personally prefer the Pigeon Town. I think that's kind of a cool, especially because I don't think I've ever seen a pigeon here. I've never seen one, but they must have, they must have frequented this area back in the 1900s.
That's interesting. I was not going to disclose your location, but
Yeah.
all right,
But
you want to tell people that's fine.
I'm
All right,
sure you
Dan.
explained everything.
Can you feel the excitement in my voice?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I feel the playoffs dripping out of your every word you say.
Oh, of course. It's
Yeah.
week 14, brother, aka PIAA quarterfinal round, aka hours before Turkey Day. I've got enough peanut oil to fry 17 or 18 of those things.
Or are you just gonna put it all on one turkey?
I'm gonna baste. I'm a baster. If
You'll
I gotta
base it.
watch a thing, I'm gonna baste the thing. You know what I
That's
mean?
that's the thing about turkeys, that the people who don't like Thanksgiving turkey just don't know how to make it right. I like if you make it right, it's the best part of the meal.
Exactly. So is that your favorite part of Turkey Day? Is that your favorite item
Yeah,
on the Turkey Day menu?
turkey. Yeah, just turkey and gravy. I'm a basic person, and then some pecan pie. But turkey, I'm not a sides guy. I'm about the entree. So
I agree with you. Our new guy Evan Wheaton told us he actually remember this. He told us last week that he makes his own cranberry sauce. I don't believe him.
yeah,
I don't believe him at all. I think that crazy jiggly stuff only comes out of a can. And
yep.
I don't want to be within a 40-yard field goal of it, dude.
Yeah, it honestly feels like it might taste better. I'm not a big cranberry sauce person to begin with, but it might taste better. But I don't think that almost feels like defeating the purpose. You need like the round cylinder with like the little indents on it, and then you just need
Yes,
to plop it down on a plate and see who wants it.
that's right. Oh, it's so icky. All right,
Yeah,
we got a full rip roaring show, dude, on tap here. With a little surprise in the middle. Earlier, we caught up with Juniata quarterback Wyatt Aaronzeller, linebacker Seth Laub, and head coach Kirk Kondo. That dynamic trio and the rest of the Indians are headed for Selinsgrove Friday for a 4A quarterfinal with the Seals. We'll talk about state win number 1 for Juniata, also against the recent nemesis, no less, and much more with those guys in about 10 minutes. First, we're going to dig into a couple of these small school classifications and these quarterfinals, Dan. Uh, basically, we've got what, I don't know, was it 5 or 6 mid pen teams left,
yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. And one of them obviously is the Camp Hill Lions, District 3 champs, and they're going to take a visit to Dunmore in 2A action. Uh, Dan, I'm coming with a really positive note this week before we jump into that one. Your Pitt Panthers men's hoops team is 4-0.
Yeah, we've got there's a 18-year-old freshman from Baltimore, Maryland, who this is how these teams need to get good. You got to luck into the 70th best recruit who's already appearing on mock drafts, and looks like they got one in Carlton Bub Carrington. So he's making the Pitt basketball is kind of making up for Pitt football this year, at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, Dan, let's jump right in, buddy. Camp Hill Dunmore, what jumps out to you right away in this matchup?
I mean, I just got off the phone with Tim Bigelow, head coach of Camp Hill, and it's just the same kind of the same song, different album. It's they are gonna go into this game undersized, like they have, he said, pretty much for the last 10 years.
Yep.
They're always gonna be undersized, but they know how to combat that. And what they're gonna do is they're gonna spread the ball out and they're gonna throw the ball, trying to take advantage of Dunmore secondary. And Drew Brandsetter's got to be the head of that snake. And he got a little banged up last week, played through it, and had the game-winning, run and touchdown pass. Bigelow says he's fine, ready to go for this week. He's going to have another big game. And Dunmore's a team that, going to pound the football on Camp Hill. And Camp Hill gave up a decent amount of rushing yards last week against West Catholic. They did a pretty good job of Messiah Mickens the week before, but they know what teams are going to want to do against them, right? They're going to want to impose their physicality of their offensive line against a smaller defense and see if Camp Hill's up to the challenge. I think this group is ready for it. I think they play a lot bigger than they are. Their wide receivers, their secondary is actually kind of big. It's
Yep.
just more the interior and the linebackers are kind of undersized. But I think it's like every Camp Hill game, right? They're going to need Drew Branstad to throw for 270 to 320 yards, and they're going to need to find ways. They're going to need to find ways to get the 20 points, 20, 25 points, 20, 28 points, and they're going to need to keep the run game in check because I think Dunmore is going to try to run that ball.
Yeah, always the first thing that jumps out to me is obviously defensive tackle Chris Conti.
Yeah,
For, I mean, I'm not sure that Camp Hill has seen a guy this big.
no,
Yeah, 6'5", 275. Was at Dunmore, went to IMG, now back at Dunmore. He's been an animal for the Bucks, but you're right. They've always been a ground and pound program. And to their credit, Camp Hill has gotten a lot better against those type of
well,
offenses.
going
I
against
mean,
Messiah Mickens probably helps prepare you for it, right? I mean,
yes.
they didn't go against Messiah Mickens their first game, but they did the second game, and I think he's pretty healthy in that game. And they had a really good game plan to. Obviously didn't limit him. Messiah's one of the best running backs in the state, if not the best. But they did a good job given their personnel, and it's going to be another challenge this week.
Yeah, it's going to be obviously they have a nice size line. Dummer's a nice size across the front. They got a couple of good running backs you had mentioned. Jake Hickey being one of them, Danny Pigga the other. Pigger is sort of the faster of the two, but Hickey's the guy that gets those tough yards north south. A little over 5 yards a carry for him on the season. Pigga's the guy that wrecked Williams Valley last week. I mean,
Yeah,
absolutely torched them for 234, 4 TDs, and that 20-point win by Dunmore, which was a bit of a surprise because to me, Williams Valley plays, don't get me wrong, the Vikings like to run the ball, but they play a little bit like Camp Hill.
yeah,
They can play a little bit more wide open. And that's obviously who's coming into town for this one. So, for me, Dunmore's quarterback is sort of a game manager, I would say.
Mhm.
Thomas Bowen. It's not like he can't throw the ball. He's over 1,000 yards in the season. He's got
But he
12
doesn't
TD
need to,
passes.
right? Yeah,
Yeah, but it's just Dunmore prefers to play at their pace, their
yeah,
tempo, north-south guys, and get things done. And I think for Camp Hill, when you're airing it out like that too, you've got to get those two linebackers for Dunmore, their studs, which is Nick DeVito and Hickey.
yeah,
You've got to get them running in circles a little bit because you're gonna at some point need to go across the middle, and those guys are really really good.
yeah,
So for me, this is really contrasting styles. I think it's going to be a fun game
yeah.
to watch. I don't think either team can run away from the other
No.
just because of Brandstedter's skills and all those guys and all those reliable targets he
Well,
has.
and that's what Tim made sure to emphasize that he called Brandsetter the Dragon Slayer to me last week, so he's obviously
Which
thinks
is
highly.
fabulous.
Yeah, he thinks highly of Drew, but he made sure to emphasize those weapons he has too are really good. Alex Long is a really good wide receiver, probably one of the more underrated mid-pen wide receivers. He had 7
Yep.
for 170 last week. Tommy Corbin's a really good target, and Kobe Moore and Noah Doy. I don't even know a position to call those guys. They're just football players. They just go out there and I said last week, Kobe Moore would probably drive the bus if they needed him to.
Yeah,
They do everything for
true.
that, and so they've got a lot of different guys to do things.
I think they have the toughest set of 170-pound football players. 175 pounds. We'll give them the
Yeah,
extra 5 pounds. But you're right. All those guys just work their tails off. They find ways to get open against faster guys that are more physical. You don't see a lot of jamming in high school football, but that might be beneficial if Dunmore actually did that.
yeah,
To just get these guys off because in 3 steps these guys are at full speed.
yeah,
And it's hard to keep pace with Doy and Becker and Corbin and Moore and Bob. I'll keep it going.
yeah,
And Brandstetter, you said, is just sort of the, you know, dare I say, sort of perfect
yeah.
vessel for this offense to run.
Mm-hmm.
He really is, and it's going to be hard to stop for Dunmore. I know their defense has been really good, and they're on an 8-game streak, and everything looks great. But this is going to be a very different team
Yeah,
That's a toxic team.
I don't think Tim Bigelow is going to hide. I don't think he's keeping much to the vest. I think everyone knows how they're going to attack this team. They're not going to
Yes.
be running the ball 25 times up the middle. They're going to be spreading the ball out, and they're going to be looking to get those receivers involved.
Yeah, if they are running up the middle, it's QB design draws
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Brian Stetter.
yeah.
So that'll be great. I mean, you're going to be up there. Do you know where you're going?
I'll figure it out. I know I went to summer camp up there as a kid, so I'll figure something out.
What was it an all-purpose summer camp or just like what?
It was overnight sports camp down. It was closer to the Poconos, but it was in Lackawanna County. So
Yeah, same thing. You'll find your way.
yeah.
People are great up there, so you'll be good.
Oh yeah.
All right, so let's switch gears. Let's move to Class 4A for that, Dan. We're gonna we'll head to an earlier segment that we caught up with the Juniata Indians. Like I said, linebacker Seth Law joined in, head coach Kirk Kondo, and quarterback Wyatt Aaron Zeller. Their quest to make the state semifinals for the first time in program history. Let's hear what they had to say. All right, welcome back to PIAA High School Football Report. We're powered by PennLive, and we are thrilled on this 14th glorious week of the season. The gang from Juniata, which banked another District 6 4A crown recently and chalked up an important PIAA first-round dub. Juniata Indians, a couple of guys. We want to welcome in head coach Kirk Kondo, quarterback Wyatt Aaron Zeller, and linebacker Seth Laub. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. How you guys doing?
We're doing well. Thanks for having us.
Not a problem. All right, let's just jump right out of the gate. How does getting that state W feel, guys?
Feels great. We've been waiting to beat them for a long time now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think there's many Mid-Penn Conference clubs that can say we have history with Meadville, but you guys certainly do have history with Meadville. I think it's, 3 years in a row now you've played them?
Yep.
Yeah, so that had to be satisfying. Tell us what went right.
Well, having to play Meadville 3 years in a row was certainly a challenge. The first year we went up there in extreme, circumstances. Last year we played down at Bald Eagle, and then we had to make the trip back up there this year. It's a 3.5 hour drive up there, so it's not an easy task. And they're very good at what they do. They're a good, talented football team with a tough rushing attack. The team just overcame all the adversity that we fought through during the season. We're 100% healthy now. They executed the game plan, offensively, defensively, and it went our way. The kids just played a lights out night.
Coach, would you say? I mean, at least from looking from the outside, your program's come a long way in a short period of time. I mean, is that safe to say? I mean, I remember us talking about 4 or 5 years ago on trying to kind of make that jump to the next level, and you guys are there now. And the expectations keep going up.
Yeah, we've always had a very strong tradition. The Juniata football has always been on the map, and I think when I took over, it was a goal of mine to sort of get us to the next level. Like, what do we have to do, to get everything upgraded a little bit as far as us competing, with some of the bigger dogs and getting into later playoff runs.
Yep. And for Wyatt and Seth and Coach too, I mean, you look at the start of your guys' year this year, right? You guys go 0-3, but you go 0-3 against 3 teams that end up winning 12, and 11 games, who are, some really good football teams you guys go up against. How much did those games, even, dropping all 3 of them, kind of help prepare you for the rest of the season? And then even the Liberty Division was, for the Liberty Division was pretty up for this year. You had teams like Susquehanna and James Buchanan. Do you feel like your schedule this year kind of helped prepare you guys for this state playoff run too?
I think it definitely helped us. It kind of made us a tougher team, and it kind of showed us what the next level was, like how good we would have to be to make it as far as Troy does every year.
Yeah.
It's interesting too, because you look at that schedule and the guys, one of those teams is still playing, obviously, and then you look at Troy and West Perry, both were in district finals. Yep. So it's not like 0-3. You don't have anything to hang your head over going 0-3 against those guys. It's pretty impressive.
That's why you schedule them, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. Coaches, I wanted to ask you: is there any one area of the team, or maybe a unit or even a player that's sort of, maybe you had some preseason concern about that unit or about that spot on the field that really turned into a strength for you that maybe you didn't expect?
Well, yeah, I think year in, year out in high school football, you're always going to have some losses to graduation. You're going to have some injuries and so forth happen. But I think over the course of the last couple of years, we haven't lost a tremendous amount of kids at one time. We haven't been real nervous or scared about replacing certain areas. So I don't think we were too concerned. A lot of our guys had a lot of valuable playing time experience coming into this season. They might not have necessarily been starters, but they played a heck of a lot of snaps the year before, and that's sort of one of my goals too, is to get as many kids valuable playing experience as possible, throughout the season, even if they're not a number one starter, the whole way. Get guys playing time that way. Whenever an injury does happen or whenever we're replacing seniors the following year, kids are more ready to go.
Coach, or guys, I made this question for you. We see a lot the PIAA brackets. There's a lot of talk every year about bye weeks and how certain classifications set up. You guys obviously played from start to finish, and you keep going. Would a week 11 bye or something for you guys, and you don't, like I said, you don't get that? Would that be beneficial for you guys, or is it more like you want to get this momentum rolling? And it seemed like you guys did right after the Susquehanna game, sort of hiked up your britches, said, "Listen, we don't want to feel that way anymore," and keep going. Would you rather continue playing, or would a week of rest somewhere in the week 11, 12 perimeter would you prefer?
I would honestly rather just keep playing, just keep sharpening the sword every week at practice. I really think that Bellefonte game really helped us out. A little bit of confidence. I think confidence is very key in a football team, and I think that helped propel us to beating Du Bois and Meadville.
Same thing, Watt? Or Seth?
That was Seth talking.
I mean, Wyatt, yeah.
Agree?
Yeah, we need to just keep going, keep everything flowing. I think a break could honestly hurt us maybe. Just need to keep the train going.
One of my favorite things about, the smaller classification teams is, not every team has their quarterback also playing on defense, and, Seth's a two-way player too. So I always like asking these guys, what makes you happier as a football player? Is it for Wyatt, is it throwing a touchdown pass or, making a big tackle for loss? Seth, is it a big run or, forcing a fumble? Which one feels better for you? Because I love the two-way. I always get to feel like the two-way guys should deserve some shine, and it's always a fun question to ask.
For me, it's all the above. I love them both.
Me personally, I think forcing that fumble and getting that fumble back, I think that's a little more important than that big run.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, we're talking to Juniata Indians head coach Kirk Kondo, Seth Lobb, linebacker, Wyatt Aronzeller, quarterback. Guys, my needed question that I always ask, and it's a little less football-y, but still very important. Who's got the messier locker?
Out of you two? Wait,
Yes.
us?
Out of you two, out of Seth and Wyatt, who's got the messier locker?
Well, that's me.
You definitely have the messier locker. You
That
definitely
is
have the messier
me.
locker.
Is there anything foreign growing in your locker?
No.
All right.
We don't allow that. I have them clean the locker room once a week.
All right, there we go.
Oh, very smart. Very smart.
That's why you're still in the state playoffs.
That's right. Exactly. Attention to detail matters, Coach. Absolutely. All right, guys. One more thing. Another travel week for you guys. Obviously going to Selinsgrove. What's the most pressing issue about playing the Seals? I know you probably haven't had a great look at them yet, and you'll get to that tonight and tomorrow. But what's the most pressing thing that you guys have to do really well to compete in this one and win this one?
But, I think, we played them very early on in the season, and I'm sure a lot has changed for them just as much as it has changed for us. They're very good at what they do, offensively, defensively. They got some outstanding athletes. I think we just need to be persistent and, build off of our confidence that we've gained here the past couple of weeks and, just come from every different angle and just keep playing football.
Do you guys like to do anything particular? Is there any pregame things you have to do? Uh, to you, Wyatt and Seth, anything that I mean, it's been probably 18 weeks now since you started this thing when, finishing up weights and getting into camp and, and getting it rolling. That's a long stretch. So is there anything that you guys developed as, I don't know, superstitions or just pregame things you have to do?
I think the practice before the night of like the game, like our Thursday practice, where I think it has to be hard, tough, and like everybody's got to be focused. It's really propelled us into playing good football on that Friday nights.
What?
Like you said with Thursday practice has, like, when it's perfect, that's normally when we play the best. And lately, it's been going really well, so hopefully it keeps going.
Are you practicing this Thursday with Turkey Day still?
Yep.
Gotta get it in. Well, hopefully you still have time to. I don't know how much you're allowed to eat before a Friday night football game, and hopefully you get a lot.
Yeah.
There's always leftovers. You can always have leftovers Saturday, right?
You can feast after the game.
Gentlemen, we can't thank you enough for your time. We appreciate it. Best of luck on Friday up in Selinsgrove. Obviously, PIAA quarterfinal round. That's a big deal, a very big deal to get there. Congratulations on the district title as well, and best of luck on Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you. We
Thanks,
appreciate it.
All right, Dan. Last but certainly not least, first of all, let's want to thank Kirk Kondo and the gang from Juniata for giving us a few minutes of their time. It's obviously a busy week for them, but let's keep moving on here down the home stretch. Last but certainly not least, Class 1A number 1 Steel High, aka the defending champs. They head to Scranton High School Friday to meet new number 2 Lackawanna Trail. Your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, last week's game, I think even Steel High would have probably left a little bit to be desired, right, for the Rollers.
Yeah.
Kind of one of their more challenging offensive efforts of the year, but you also have to take into account the ball was really wet.
The weather was awful.
They make their hay passing the football, and sometimes those rain games you just throw them out and just say that was a weird game and move forward. But I feel like when we started this playoff, we kind of said, hey, Steel High has a pretty clear path to the 1A title game. But then you get to a point like this and you're like, this Lackawanna team is pretty darn good. It is going to be a team that I think we all agree is going to challenge Steel High. And, I think the benefit here is the experience and, the comfort these guys have in these moments. But it's still going to be, I don't think it's going to be a 45 to 14, cruise of a game. I think that Steel High is going to have to work for this one.
Yeah, I think last week proved that to Steel High. If they were feeling over the moon and untouchable, I think probably Coach Irby would have been wise to, in the post game huddles, tell him, hey, listen, we're in it deep now. The path is only going to get worse. It's only going to get tighter. The teams are getting better. And this Lackawanna Trail team, I've been high on all year. Their defense is tremendous. But what continues to impress me about the Rollers is even when they don't look sharp, and last week's deluge is really to blame, I think, and a lot on Northern Bedford too. It's a good football team, but they find a way to win. And to me, that's an area where this program has made the most progress over the last 4 or 5 years. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with Triggerman Alex Irby. Yeah. I think when you have that sort of steady force there, a guy who doesn't really get down on himself. He did a little bit as a freshman, but I think he's learned to just sort of like, if they don't get a first down, fine. We get another chance in a couple of minutes. I just think having that calming force quarterback, and obviously that calming force is incredibly talented as well. I think has made all the difference during this run to these state titles, which could be 3 and 4 years if they finish it off this season. The Lions have a punishing ground game, just like we talked about with Dunmore earlier in the show. And teams with that kind of power have given Steel High some trouble.
Yep.
Up front. They've gotten they've given up their share of chunk plays. They've given up their share of points. But to me, this is all about Lackawanna Trail's defense. Have they seen sort of the weapons that they're going to see on Friday? You mentioned a guy like Darrell Caesar, which we've talked about all year long. Last week, 2 catches, 76 yards, 2 touchdowns.
And a pick.
And last week it was a case where it was 0-0. It was tense. Who's gonna sort of break out first? And the Rollers did, and then everything was sort of fine for them.
Yeah.
This might be a game where they may be down. They may trail in this game because Lackawanna has the goods to kind of set the tone early. So we'll see how Steel High responds. But again, I'm so impressed with how the Rollers have responded in situations where they haven't looked great or even sharp. And to me, that's probably the thing that the thing I look at most to get them over the hump in these tough football games.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the game last week. Alex Irby threw the ball 12 times. Right, he's 9 of 12. Had efficient game, but not. You usually think that the game script for Steel High win is going to be a little more pass heavy than that, and if it's not, you'd expect Ronald Burnett to have more than 60 yards rushing. To be able to come out of that game, with like having to kind of go ground heavy and not have the most efficient ground game, probably because everyone knew with the weather that they were going to be running the football and you could load the box up a little more.
Right.
But the fact that they could come away and get that win, while you probably would go and say this isn't their most impressive win of the year, sometimes it almost is a jolt, right? To be able to escape a game like that, to say we survived, kind of are a C plus B minus effort or a C plus B minus performance. I don't even think effort's the right word because it was again just a really kind of crappy environment. But I think when you look back at that run last year, you think about how much Ronald Burnett carried that team, carried that team's running game a year ago, and I think that in order to kind of get to where they were last year, I think it's important to kind of get him going a little more. And I think this game is a good opportunity for that.
Yeah, I agree. Burnett's been, when we saw this last year of him sort of bursting on a seam in that Trinity game in week 7, and then just went, lights out and was sort of the catalyst, if you will, really, in games that where, the weather comes into play now, every week. And Burnett was sort of that calming force back then when maybe you weren't able to get great footing and throw deep or the passing game wasn't as sharp. The thing is, I still has that. They still have that, and Burnett there. They can always give it to Jam Perry, for a more north-south look. He's been really good. And so it's just the amount of weapons Steel High has for a defense like Lackawanna Trail. There's going to be an opening.
Yeah.
There's going to be something that's not stop. They're not going to be able to stop. Now, whether Steel High can identify that and utilize it is another thing, but they've been good at that. Yep. At that aspect of the game is finding those weaknesses. So I don't expect that to stop here. I think this is a whale of a ball game. I tried to figure out, well, could this be high scoring? I'm looking at the weather. Could this be low scoring? And I don't know. I look at something like 27-20, something in that realm, because again, you just don't rack up 50 points anymore against these teams.
Yeah.
They've got good games. They've got good tempo. They eat some clock. And, if you get up 7 points and maybe Lackawanna gets into the fourth quarter here with a shot to win, I think that's a very distinct possibility.
Yeah.
I just think in the end, I just think Steel High, has that momentum and has that
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, it just has that look, you know what I mean? That look like, listen, no matter what happens, we're going to be able to overcome it. And now these guys are veterans too. They've been around. They've played ball since they were, 5 years old, 6 years old together. And, they do a lot of things right that a lot of people don't see, and as long as they don't shoot themselves in the foot, with penalties and things like that, they've had some problems with that, yeah, but they should come out of this one, I think, but
Well,
it's going to
to
be a good
me,
one.
yeah, to me, I think this happens with a lot of our top teams, right? You kind of focus so much on the offense because the big names, the quarterback, right, with Alex Irby and
Yes.
Stone Saunders, and they're great. All these guys are great, but I think what has kind of helped Steel High get to where it's been the last 2 years has been the growth of this defense, and
True.
the defense is just loaded now. And they really can win in a variety of different ways. They can win those 17-13 games, those 10-7 games, because they've got guys like Eugene Green, they've got guys like Rel Caesar, they've got a ton of talent on the defensive line. Andrew Irby Jr. has been awesome defensively too, as much as he's been on the offensive line, which will play at the next level. I just think that this team has really found they can now win in a variety of ways, which has not always been the case.
Yeah, I think Taven Legrand's been a guy too that's been overlooked from all the quote unquote big guys that we typically talk about week to week. He's been pretty ferocious at linebacker,
Yeah,
and he causes a
Jermaine
lot of
Tatum.
havoc.
Yeah,
I don't see him dropping back in coverage much. They're always sending him, and he's been a problem.
old
And I
school.
think he'll be a problem for Lackawanna as well in this one.
Yeah,
So yeah, well, we're looking forward to obviously all these football games. Dan, you get to cover Camp Hill. I believe I'm with the Cougars
yeah,
back at Manheim Township for a rematch. Not only a district final rematch, but also a rematch from earlier in the season. So that should be fun as well. All right, so that should do it for this edition of PIAA High School Football Report. Appreciate your time. Get out there and watch some football. Bundle up, of course, and of course, happy Thanksgiving to all of you, and we appreciate your time as always. Come back and join us next week.